Hey everybody, it's Josh the Firearm Convention coming at you with a video today about bullet molds. So the last time we were talking about lead and where to find it. This time we're going to talk about bullet molds, handles, what to expect, what you're going to get, and basically everything about that, I believe. So today I'm going to talk to you about the molds. Now, there's the last one I wanted to get right there. So, there's a bunch of different types of molds, and they range from rather inexpensive to rather expensive, okay? We're going to talk about what makes a bullet mold expensive, what makes a bullet mold inexpensive, and is this one as good as this one, okay? So, when going from, thinking about this video, I wasn't sure what direction I was going to go. Be it, should I go single cavity, like this guy, with one hole in it, up to multi-cavity, like this one, with 6 holes in it, or was I going to go, cheapest to most expensive? So, I decided I'm going to go cheapest to most expensive while my lead pot's heating up. So if you hear that hum in the background, that's what that is. I'm going to go over my favorite bullet molds, and then I'm going to go over, your basic bullet molds that I think everybody should have 1 or 2 of. Now, of course, 1 or 2 of, when I say that, I mean pretty much everybody has a 30 caliber, pretty much everybody has, a handgun, pretty much everybody has, that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm talking about, okay? So don't mind some of the, the rougher looking ones. Like I said, I just got these out of storage. I got to clean them up. I'm going to hit them with some Evaporust and go from there. Now, starting at the beginning, we got this little guy. This is a Lee bullet mold. As you can see, there's a pair of handles on here, whereas there's no handles on this one. Well, this one, the handles are permanently attached. You cannot take them off. Okay, so they're pressed in. Those handles, they come with the bullet mold. Okay. So this is the cheapest option. This one here is the old style, Lee blocks. And I really am not a fan of this style of bullet mold. This one is a 41 caliber, 195 grain. And again, it's a plain base. And I'm not a fan of this style because of the alignment grooves. See how it's got 2 slots right there? That's what's supposed to align it together. Not the best. And then you've got these little bars, and there's one on that side, one on that side, right there and right there, and that bar will go into the corresponding groove that looks just like that on the other block, right? Come on now, there we go. And you kind of have to like jiggle this mold a little bit, I guess, to get it to align properly, because you'll get a lot of bullets that'll come out of alignment once you get some wear. And as you can see how that bullet mold can drop down some. Come on now. It'll drop down and it'll actually cast a bullet that looks off. Now this one doesn't have a lot of wear on it, so it's got a pretty nice mesh, but you got to be really careful with these. These start around $25. You can find them used all over the place. Now, like I said, I used to avoid these. This is a Lee 2 cavity with handles. If you're on a budget, these will work just fine, especially since this is the old version. Let me show you the new version. Lee really listened to their customers, okay? Again, they still come with the handles. These are permanently attached, or are they? Well, if you look in here, now they are still semi-permanent. Those aren't regular screws, but you can actually remove them. So if you need to service the block for whatever reason, you can remove them. This one is a 329-205, again, a Lee. Biggest difference on the inside, biggest difference is when you open it up, look at that. It's got these 2 teats, those 2 pins that go into these 2 slots here. They've really upgraded, the swirl pattern on the block, or the vent lines on here. Very nice bullet mold. Now this one's a gas check design, and we'll go over bullets at a later date, but as you can see, You know, it's a very nice bullet mold at this point for a very cheap price. They updated all this, and they didn't up the price, which was absolutely exciting. So in this one, much easier to open and close. The lines, very much so, are so much easier to put together. This, honest to goodness, these 2-cavity Lee bullet molds right there are my go-to if you're just wanting to do some range plinking, some good old-fashioned fun. You know, you've got, say, a 30-30, and you just want to cast some bullets for it and go to town. You know, you just want to shoot some light loads, or you just want to shoot whatever, okay? This is the best option because there are no more being made with the old style pins, okay? So any one of these molds that you get today, it's going to look just like this guy, okay? So these ones, if you can find a bullet mold from Lee that, you know, fits in this $25 category, this is your best bet if you're just trying to get into casting. You're just trying to figure out if it's for you or not. They're made out of aluminum, lightweight, absolutely wonderful. You know, absolutely wonderful bullet molds, the new style. Lee's really good with parts. Normally these cast pretty close to what it says it's going to cast. So this says 329. It's going to cast pretty close to 329, and that's going to depend on your alloy, of course. But this one casts right at about 330, which is just fine. So that right there is, you know, a really good option. And they have these in everything from 22 caliber to 50 caliber. So look for these if you're just getting into it and you're giving it a shot. Now let's say we want to move up to something a little bit more expensive. Okay, a little bit more expensive. Why don't we look at the ones, this one's an NOE, I believe it's Night Owl Enterprises, and this one is a 7mm for my 7 Mauser. Again, they have pretty decent pins, these locator pins. I like to see a pin that's not so roundy. You know, it's not so much of a flat point. I like to see a point on my locator pins, similar to this one. You know, I just think that they locate so much nicer. But again, these are high quality bullet molds. Very high quality molds. My lead pot is farting. Vent lines are cut very nice. You know, the cavities are cut very well. Very little issue with these. Now, these bullet molds, as you can see, they don't have handles on them. You got to get your own handles, okay? Now, Night Owl sells handles. You know, he sells Lee handles, and I believe he sells his own handles as well. And these attach with those pins. It goes right in the slots here. Goes right like that. And of course, the holes here will correspond with your pins there and lock it in place. But these handles you can take off and use. Lee sells these handles. They are very cost effective. You only need one pair if you're going to go this route. So this bullet mold normally runs, now remember, this was like $25, okay? This is going to cost you, well, these might be $30 nowadays. This is going to cost you in the neighborhood of $70. So this guy here, what does this get you above and beyond this? Okay, that's the big question. That's what everybody wants to know. Or at least that's, what am I getting for the extra money? Well, you're getting a more consistent cavity. You're getting a bullet that basically is guaranteed to cast 293. It's going to be guaranteed to cast at 293. It's going to guaranteed to be really, really close to, 170 grains. And of course, that's the FN for flat nose. So you're going to get a better overall casting product. It's going to be much easier to get bullets out of this that, are usable. And that's just because, it's a more quality product. Now, this one, like I said, this one's about $70. Now, he runs specials all the time. You're a great guy to deal with. That's kind of your average middle of the road bullet mold. Okay. Same with this one here. This is an old one. This company's now out of business, but there's still a couple bullet molds around. You know, again, really nice bullet mold. You know, the vent lines were cut well. Cherries that they use to cut these just makes a really nice bullet. But again, these guys were in the same quality range as these guys as far as, you know, their blocks and their cavities and everything. A couple small upgrades that I like better, like the tapered pins, you know, and I liked the sprue plate. It was a little bit thicker, okay, you know, but not by a lot, okay, but it is a little bit thicker. Sprue plate is less likely to warp, holds the heat a little bit better. But basically, these were in the same neighborhood in price, okay. So this one's got a set of handles on it, but like I said, that's how they would attach, you know, just like those. So we're going to set that off to the side. Now, before we go up in price anymore, let's move on to this little guy. Now this is something that I found. These handles come off. This is a old Lyman single cavity. Okay, this is a single cavity. And this one's got the button style pins in it as well. So it's just got little buttons there. This is a single cavity 35 caliber bullet meant for the 38 357 Magnum or plinker loads in any of your 35s really. But this one I got at a yard sale. You know, as you can see, it's had some farmer fixes. That's what we're going to call them, farmer fixes. You know, and I got it just ridiculously cheap. Along with these handles here that I talked about. I've had these handles. But like I said, I got them ridiculously cheap, and they work really well. You know, but it's a single cavity, so it's slow. But this is an iron mold. You know, this is made out of iron or steel. And these take a little bit longer to heat up, but they throw a pretty good bullet. Again, honestly, these guys nowadays, you can find them on eBay. I'm not a huge fan of buying these new, okay? RCBS still makes them. Lyman still makes them. But they're actually substandard in quality to these Lees. And guess what? These guys are way more expensive. They're in this $50 to $60 neighborhood for like little single cavities, okay? Even the used ones. This little guy right here, used, is going to be 30 bucks. No handles. Just this little block, okay? So I like iron for a casting material. Really great, but not so great on price. Now we're getting more expensive. And as you can see, it's more expensive, but it makes half the bullets per pour. So that's kind of an issue, right? Now some of the old designs only come in these, unless you contract through, you know, NOE, and they do group buys, and he makes all kinds of bullets. You know, all kinds. So these ones are iron. Like I said, single cavity. These ones are next in line in expense. The next one's up, if you want to cast a whole lot of bullets in a hurry, this is a Lee 6 cavity. These are normally only for pistol bullets though. So they don't do a ton of bullets in this design here, but it makes a lot. Okay, so, you know, I believe this one is a 45, I want to say, 230 grain. So basically, every time you crack this bullet mold open, you're going to have one 1911 magazine. Okay, basically. I mean, stick with me here. Again, these are the same quality, if not a little better quality than these Lee ones, but obviously you make 3 times the bullets. Now these are like their commercial ones, or what they call commercial anyway, and they take the Lee handles just like that, and then you would use this to crack open the sprue, because you got so many holes here, so many sprues to bust. They give you this handle to work as a pivot, like that. So again, good quality if you're looking to make 9mm, 40s, 45s, 38s, 357s, 44s in quantity. Look at these little guys, okay? Price-wise, these ones are running about $65, $68, I believe, from my knowledge. Okay, now we're going to move on to this little guy, okay? My absolute favorite mold manufacturer. This gentleman makes Tom at Accurate Molds. If you know what you want, you can email Tom and say, I want a bullet like this is my design. It's a 255 grain 30 caliber bullet. It's made for my pre-64 Model 70 30-06. The cherries, the cavities he cuts are superb. Everything about these bullet molds are superb. Extra thick sprue plates. Great design. Very easy to use. This mold, though, is going to cost you close to $85. All right, but it'll be guaranteed to cast exactly what you want. And you can say, I want this 30 caliber bullet to cast 310 on the drive bands. I want the nose to be 301. I want the nose to be so long. I want the drive bands to be so long. I want the lube groove to be so big. It's totally custom. Nice thing, though, is when he designs that for you, that design is now on his website. So you could go to his website, AccurateMolds.com, look up the 31255J, and have one bought. You can buy this mold. Not a problem. There it is. You can buy this mold today. It'll be literally the exact same thing that I've got in my hand right now. So I really like these molds. He guarantees them to be within 1,000th, I think it is, of what what he calls for. Okay, so there is, the Accurate molds. Set this off to the side. Now, let's bring in the 2-cavity RCBS. Now, this is an RCBS mold. I was actually just casting with this one the other day. This one is the 41210 Keith RCBS. So very much like this one here, same mold material, iron, okay, but 2 holes. These bullet molds run $80-ish, okay, maybe closer to 90 now because they're everything's getting more expensive, okay, but again, decent quality. Limited, very limited in your selection though. These are on my, unless it's something that's an older style design that they don't make anymore, it's discontinued, I try and stay away from these bullets and molds unless they are just an absolute deal and you can't get away from it. Okay, anything that you can find in this bullet from this manufacturer, Accurate Molds will make you for roughly the same price, guaranteed that you have the exact same design, quality through the roof on the Accurate mold, way better. Accurate molds 100%. So there's that. Normally you'll be able to get a 3 or 4 cavity aluminum from Tom at Accurate for the same price as one of these 2 cavity RCBS irons. Okay, now another mold manufacturer, this guy is Mihek, I believe. He's over in Romania. Now he makes brass molds. Brass is a very wonderful casting bullet mold. Once you get it up to temperature, it casts a beautiful bullet, super consistent. This one is probably the most expensive to make because one, brass is already expensive by the pound. This bullet mold, every bit of 3 pounds, 4 pounds maybe. Now the cavities you may have noticed on this one's a hollow point design. So this one's a 40 cal that will cast a hollow point bullet. See the tips? That'll cast a hollow cavity. Very expensive to buy a bullet mold like this one. Honestly, I bought this bullet mold, when I had a 40. Made beautiful bullets with it. Don't have a 40 anymore, but I still got the mold. And it's a 402. This bullet mold with wheel weights casts exactly 402, 190 grains. Now, let's talk about materials. Okay? So we'll get these guys all stood up here. What material do I like to cast with the best? As in, what do I want my blocks made from? I really love the casting qualities of brass. But this bullet mold, even in a 2 cavity, is excessively heavy. It's very heavy. It's going to be at least 1 pound. Okay, it's even heavier than these guys. So what I do is I normally stick with aluminum as an all-around bullet mold material. It heats up quick, it makes a good bullet fast, and overall it's light, because your hand is going to get heavy or fatigued holding up this bullet mold. It doesn't look big, but I'm telling you, it's got some heft to it. It may be close to 4 pounds. I'd have to put it on a scale. Iron or steel is probably my next favorite. Once you get a steel mold warmed up, they cast an amazing bullet. But until then, like, you have to do a lot of cycles with these to get them up to temperature before they'll cast a good bullet. You're just going to cast, throw it away, or put it in your sprue pile, put it in sprue pile, put it in sprue pile. Don't look at these molds until you've probably cast 20-25 cycles with them to get them up to temperature. Because if you continue to look at the bullet and go, oh, that one's not any good, dump that one out, close it up, pour it again, pop the sprue, look at it, start looking at your bullets, you're never going to get this up to temperature. By the time you get this up to temperature, you're going to be ready to quit. So preheating molds is a big thing, which is really why I like aluminum. Aluminum doesn't take a whole lot of preheat. Aluminum heats up very fast. And normally, if I get this mold on the pot, and just sitting on the rim of the pot, normally within 2 pours after I get, the lead pot up to temperature, aluminum's producing quality bullets every single time. They just do. So I would have to say aluminum is my favorite material to cast with overall. I can make good bullets with any of these bullet molds shown. Pick one, doesn't matter. I can make great bullets with any of these. You just have to understand the qualities of the material. So my favorite material to make bullets, bullet molds with, aluminum right there, number 1. Steel, number 2. And brass is last. And I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers because there are people that absolutely love brass. But for the casting qualities of brass, I can do the exact same thing, get the same casting qualities with steel at a reduced weight. And that sounds stupid, but honestly, it's true. Casting even with this 2 cavity, versus this 4 cavity. This 4 cavity is 2.5 times the weight of this one. I mean, it's just crazy. So I really prefer, to run aluminum, because even this 6 cavity mold right here, even with handles, doesn't weigh, what this 2 cavity mold does. This, with the extra handle, three times the pouring capacity, this one weighs a little bit less than this 2 cavity steel. And I can make so many more bullets with it. If you make a 6 cavity mold in steel, you're gonna be, a tired pup when you're done casting. So definitely aluminum, then steel, then brass for me. That's just me personally. Now, how many cavities? How many cavities should I buy? Well, you need to see how popular that bullet's going to be, okay, for you. Like the Lee has a 312-155 bullet, or the 312-160 if it's a not a regular grease groove design. That bullet mold and bullet will fit in pretty much any 30 caliber gun, period. From 7.62 by 39 to the 300 Win Mag, it'll shoot if you can get a proper load for it. So in that design, I would say get as many cavities as possible, because you're going to be shooting that bullet in a lot more guns. So if you've got a 30-06, a 30-30, it is a pointed bullet, but it's lead, so you don't normally have any issues with detonation of primers. But if you're shooting like single shot 30-30, 308s, 300 Savages, 30-40 Krags, all the 30 calibers, your military surplus 30 calibers, or your bolt action 30s, you cannot beat a 312-155 for just overall plinkers, 300 blackouts, all that stuff. So get it in as many cavities as you possibly can. If you're going to be doing a bullet mold that's specific to just one gun, like this one, it's a 331 255J. This is designed for my 30-06. Doesn't shoot at anything else. So I opted for a 2 cavity. I'm not going to cast this one near as much as I will a 312 155. Another example is the 6 cavity. When do you want what they call a gang mold? Well, if you're going to be shooting handguns, pistol caliber carbines, semi-automatics, you want a large pour, or even revolvers, because you're going to load 5 to 6 at a time. So that's something that you would want to get a large quantity in. Now, what about single cavities? We got singles here. When would we want to do a single cavity? Well, a single cavity would be great if you're doing a precision rifle. Let's say you want to get the most precise load you possibly can with your bullet mold. You would cast a single cavity. You would ask for a single cavity or try and find a single cavity bullet mold, because while this is the slowest way to do it, every bullet is going to come out exactly the same because it's cast from the same hole every single time. As long as you keep your blocks the same temperature, you keep your lead the same temperature, you're golden, okay? So there's that. That's what I would pick a single cavity for. This one would be something like your long range 4570s and 4590s for black powder competition or something of that nature, or you're trying to do something with like a high velocity 30 caliber, like a high velocity 308 or something with cast. That's what I would go with, a single cavity. So overall, let's recap real quick. Okay, if you can find it, you're a beginning plinker, you're a beginning caster, you want to stretch your dollar as much as possible, Lee 2 cavities. Find what you can in a Lee 2 cavity. If they have it in a 2 cavity, pick it up. It's going to be a good mold. You're going to be happy with it, and it'll get the job done. If you've got a couple of these molds, but you just can't find anything in the offerings, you can't find anything you're looking for, there's a specific bullet you're looking for, or a specific design, a style you're looking for, then you have 2 choices. You can go to NOE or Accurate Molds, okay? Now, you could go to Mihek as well, honestly, but, I do tend, and this is just me, I do tend to look for American-made products before I look for, imports, and that's just how I go with a lot of things in life. Even though Mihek molds will whip an NOE mold any day of the week, twice on Sunday, that mold is 3 times the mold of this guy right here. So, but this is still an outstanding mold. This mold is 3 times the mold of these Lees for casting quality. But the best overall middle of the round mold, if I had to pick any bullet mold, any manufacturer, would be the Accurate, just because of what he can do for you and the turnaround times and everything. Because remember, these are all custom made. This bullet mold won't exist, even if it's one of his bullet molds in his catalog. This bullet mold doesn't exist until you call or email or place the order and say, this is what I want. He then cuts it for you right then and there. He cuts it for you right then and there, and ships it out to you. So you can't beat his customer service. I love his designs, okay? And his support afterwards. You just can't beat it. Now, I would also look for Mihek's, MIHECs. He does a lot of hollow point designs. If you're looking for hollow points, this is the guy to run to immediately. If you're wanting to cast a hollow point bullet, he's the guy to talk to. Does an excellent job. He does non-hollow points as well, okay? So, if you're getting a hollow point, and you need another mold, talk to him. Get it shipped on one shipping, because it's going to come from Romania, I believe. One of the Slavic countries that used to be underneath the Iron Curtain. So, there's that. So, that's basically a quick overview of what I would pick for bullet molds. If I had to start out, honestly, right now, I can't say enough good about these Lee molds. If you can find what you need in these molds, pick it up. Okay? So, you really can't beat them. I mean, they have improved so much over the years. And then, like I said, NOE, Accurate, and Mihek would be my design. I would definitely tend to err away from brand new RCBS and brand new Lyman, because while it says a 41, that means it's going to cast a 410 diameter bullet. New bullet molds from them are casting up to 2 or 3 thousandths undersize, and for a cast bullet, that is sacrilege. We can't have a bullet cast undersize. So you have to have a bullet to cast slightly larger and then size it down. Everything in the cast bullet world starts bigger, gets smaller. If it starts smaller and you need it to get bigger, that's a no-no. That'll never work. And a lot of the modern RCBS and a lot of the modern Lyman bullet molds are just junk. They're not very good as far as their diameters. I don't know why they think what they think as far as bullet diameter, but it's not working for them. So err away from Lymans and RCBSs unless they're old vintage, molds. Okay, if they're old vintage molds, from, I want to say, the early 80s and back, pick them up. They cast exactly the way you want them to. But modern ones, not so much. Go with one of these manufacturers here. Go with a Lee, one of these manufacturers here, and run with it. And you can't go wrong. Okay. I think next up we'll talk about lead pots. I only have one right now. And then when we're done lead pots, I think we'll talk about, prepping a bullet mold for casting. Because there's a lot you can do with a bullet mold and with lead and not get good bullets. But if you follow a couple simple steps, you'll get great bullets from any material, any amount of cavities, anytime. And until then, I guess I'll talk to you guys later. I've rambled on long enough. So if you like this video, you're interested in more, casting related information, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, hit the subscribe button, the bell button, so that you can be notified that when we're putting out the new videos. Have any questions, leave them in the comments section. I'll try to answer every single one of them. Talk to you guys as much as possible. We love feedback. We love the support we get from you guys. And until then, have a great day.